then why does it need AI? Whoever wants to take this first.
You can take it. Yeah, I think this AI bringing into the healthcare is one of the challenging things because there's a lot of regulation first of all, and we have to deal with that. So when we started thinking about the machine learnings, which we were using it like linear optimization and elasticity model, we have all the things with to release this kind of models. This work was used for pricing optimization because we get a lot of data points from insurance, take example from old claims, our relations with PBMs, a lot of pricing different plans comes to us. And I can tell you that daily we are putting 3 billion data points daily with computing. And these data points decide each drug price for specific pharmacies. So that was completely available and we made sure that started becoming automations in that case. But when the generative AI came, we started thinking what should we do, and the important thing was that 2 use cases came into our mind with the search, because when people come to our real estate, we want to make sure they get what they're looking for. And for example, we have almost 80 to 90,000 articles written by our own editorial staff, which are mostly MDs and fund deals. And how do we find the summarized content? Because you get lots of links, information on Google, and going through that whole list of all the pages is impossible. So we are implementing now Vertex AI based on meta-database to implement research, go through this article, give the summarized content, and then give the links to that. The next phase of that is we have a lot of videos. Nobody has time to go through these videos. Can we summarize the content in the videos and give them information, and they can click if they want to go on specific content inside through the video. So that was one of the use cases we are implementing as we speak. And second one is our customer support. When people call in front of the pharmacy, like when they were saying he takes a card, and if the price is not same what they've seen on their mobile app or on the browser, they're going to argue with the pharmacist. So how do we make sure that this will help the consumer and not have to argue with that? So we decided to implement certain AI models there, where we can actually make sure that these kind of prices we insert into the POS terminals. These are directly, automatically, we can push it into their systems. So looking at that angle, when the customer calls the customer support, we want to make sure that the customer support has the AI tools to find the information within the system. So we implemented a RAG on Vertex AI. These RAGs collect all the information from customer support, get the information as soon as quickly within a couple of seconds, so that they can respond faster to the consumers. The next phase of that, we want to expose this to the consumer, but because of the healthcare industry, we want to make sure this correctly works within our system, where we are customer support people or PA. They can verify that the information coming is correct. So that's how we're taking the approach, because in healthcare, things can go wrong, and we want to make sure that it is not being conservative on the side, it helps us a lot.
So on the provider data management side, some of the biggest problems are around the disparity of the information. So currently, when you want to run a credentialing, licensing, payer enrollment process, you have to bring data together from a bunch of sources and figure out what goes together and which license belongs to which provider and is that correct, and ultimately make a decision on, is this provider in good standing and should they be allowed in the network. Bringing data together from 500 plus sources of information, which is what we bring today, but that's only 10% of the universe. The universe of provider data is 5,000 plus sources in the US. So when you start bringing together data from that many sources, you have to think about the concept of entity resolution. For those who don't know what that is, it's the ability to identify if the entity is the same coming in from multiple sources. So simplified, it's deduplication of data. And Entity resolution is a prime space for AI. It's actually not something that we're pioneering at Certify. Entity resolution is a known problem in the AI space, and there are companies out there that have been trying to solve it for a while, some better than others. So that's a key area where we are also applying AI. And one of the things that we found is traditionally techniques for doing deduplication have been centered around traditional ML capabilities. So using various ML algorithms that are not Gen AI based, right? Not using an LLM. Turns out LLMs are pretty good at entity resolution. And you get added benefits of, you can ask an LLM, why did it make a decision? You can't do that with traditional techniques. If you're using a neural network to do something similar, then good luck explaining why it made that decision. So this lends itself to new techniques and new opportunities in that space. And that's one use case. There are so many use cases where you can take advantage of AI to make things simpler, more efficient. Another one that you mentioned was the summarization. For us, the same kind of thing at the end of the credentialing process. If there were findings, sanctions, malpractice suits, etc., you want to create a cred summary. Right now, that's done very manually. Somebody types it out. There's absolutely no reason someone should have to type that out. Summarization is in the wheelhouse of Gen AI. Right? That's exactly the primary use case you see in a lot of instances. So we see a lot of opportunity there.
We are working on 2-3 areas. One, on the provider side, our story is very simple. We can enable AI with Epic. Because if you look at the Epic's market share, a lot of AI startups out there, their struggle is how to make it real for implementing for a hospital. And like, I'll give you an example. Recently, one of the largest radiology company came to approach us. They said, hey, we have this product, but our radiology centers, we can use it, but we cannot use it places where it's inside a hospital, because we have to strictly go with what Epic flows are, right? So we have a platform now, we are trying to get enabling AI with Epic. Epic does their own AI with their roadmap, you have to stick to their roadmap. But there are a lot of use cases you can quickly implement and show the impact, right? So that's one area we are working on. We are also working on the data side, which I covered earlier, where even how to collect all this data, structured, unstructured data, and make it usable to train your models, right? In fact, we are also working with some Southeast Asian countries where they are trying to put together a universal healthcare models, and we are starting putting that foundational data for them. Now, when you come on the payer side, right now HiPaaS is being used by more than 30 to 35 states. Medicare, Medicaid, marketplace business is touching HiPaaS somewhere. Whether you're submitting your claims, whether you're submitting your eligibility, prior auth. So we have all those models built in. How to quickly get your claim, clean and adjudicated, right? That's kind of one of the focus we're using AI. Enrollment is another area where, that's a membership area, because a lot of elderly population, they want their prescription on the first of the month. And the way the files and how this entire mumbo jumbo works in the payer space, it's still too manual, still too legacy. And we are trying to use AI for trying to convert that and make it more efficient. And then the prior auth, like we did, someone said earlier, that's a bigger topic nowadays. Everybody wants to get into the prior auth space, so we have some capabilities in that. So overall, I think we are sticking to the foundation. Let people build their AI models, we will help you to put them together, and that's kind of what our AI services, doing the data engineering and so on, has been working, and we see ourselves doing the impact. Right?
Thank you. So there are a lot of concerns with AI, safety and regulation governance, and also helping enable being a tool to the doctors rather than replacing them. I'd love to hear, what are your processes, guidelines, best practices to ensure safety, governance, and how do we approach that process?
Yeah, I think AI governance is a big topic. We can talk forever, but I can give a summary of that. What we do in our company, basically, we have our the general counsel / legal team, as well as our privacy, security, and compliance team. We audit regularly to make sure that what data is being passed, what is the PHI, PI information, and how we are able to make sure these LLM models are running for your own on the own data centers or on the own GCP or AWS on the own cloud instead of giving to public cloud, as well as the important thing that the data security, especially tokenization and encryption, we have very high standards. And we do audit like every weekly. Once the new things are coming, how the data works, is there any information is being passed which is not supposed to be passed, how the LLMs outputs are looking. So we do pretty regular audit. And as you know, this is a new systems are coming out. There's a lot more scrutiny needs to be done. And we're not perfect yet. We're also learning. But at least we have manual process right now which is helping us. But down the line, definitely we'll have some automations from LLM to watch LLMs if possible. But we don't know when and what to do, but we are looking into that angle.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So when I saw that this question was going to be on the panel, I said, well, this is kind of a pretty well-known list of governance processes and security processes that go around AI at this point. I don't think we're inventing the wheel. We're not at the bleeding edge of this now. So the first thing I did, I went to Gemini and I said, okay, what are the 7 compliance things that you should do for AI? Gemini is the one that I use. And it spit out a pretty reasonable list, right? It talked about governance, it talked about privacy, it talked about ethics, it talked about all the different kinds of things that you would think about. So at the end of the day, that really is the list of what you need to do, but it comes down to, for me, a couple of things that really stand out. One is that when you're using AI, and a lot of us, when we talk about AI today, we're really talking about Gen AI. I think fewer and fewer people are using the more traditional methods. That's not structured data versus unstructured data. And so when we think about Gen AI, at the end of the day, we are in the business of getting things right. We want our clients to trust our platform and trust the decisions that it's making or the recommendations that it's making. And the fact is, Gen AI hallucinates. There is some amount of time that if you're asking it to spit out facts, that it will just tell you something that's blatantly wrong or a lie. So that, for us, really means that you have to have a human in the loop at some point. You just can't let the AI make the decision. You can't let it run without the checks and balances that are necessary to create that trust and make sure that our clients trust what's coming out of our platform. So we do still put that in place. And there is still a development process that's happening in terms of the checks and balances, and a lot of our clients feed into that because there are certain requirements that they have as well when we're using AI on a platform. Because we're a little bit on the different side. We're not working directly with the provider. We're not making recommendations to the provider. We're doing it for the health plan. And in that case, health plan, we'll talk about it, I think, a little bit later, but there's a lot of implications around the data security as well. And when it comes to Gen AI, data security is one of those big question marks that you can have as well. I think everyone's probably read stories recently about certain models that leaked information that was provided to them via prompts from users, not even the training data that it originally read from the internet. Okay. So that has to be forefront.
Now, when you look at like LLM models, there are a lot of vendors providing. They do the same thing. And when you talk about payers, especially the security, HiPaaS compliance, and all those things, what we try to coach and try to do is put the model inside your firewall. Everything sounds great. There is ChatGPT, there is a lot of other things, co-pilots and all. But go for it. Whatever you need has to be within your firewalls, if you are a payer. Now, when you come on the predictive AI side of it, obviously the basics there is you have to run it along with the human interface, right? So we did like mortality rate, 90-day mortality rate, predictions and all those things, but it's just feeding or aiding the physician. It's not making any decisions for them. So AI making decisions on the healthcare is, we are not there yet. Maybe a few generations down. But right now, I think on the Gen AI or any AI algorithms you are trying to build, healthcare needs them behind the firewall. And I think that's the biggest security concern right now, because nobody knows this technology, everybody is jumping on it, nobody knows what's going to happen in future, how the security breaches are going to happen, the change healthcare, nothing to do with AI, but it happened and it brought down the entire healthcare system. So similarly, there are a lot of things which can leak from here. So our recommendation to our customers are, doesn't matter LLM or LLM model, don't go with the buzzwords, should be inside your firewall.
Absolutely, thank you. And we will have time for audience Q&A. You can start to think of your questions. So we've got a couple questions left for the panelists here. I also just learning a little bit more about you folks personally. I noticed that every panelist here had a career in tech and engineering before getting into healthcare. I wanted to ask a similar question. What was your transition into healthcare like, and why did you do it?
I'll talk about getting into this role a little bit at the beginning, but my first role at grad school was in healthcare. Actually, I was working at a company doing electronic medical records. It wasn't that big. And I was building a system that was reading data from anesthesiology machines doing an operation and then doing analysis on that data. So it was kind of interesting because at the time we were in the operating room when we were rolling out the software during an operation, and that's when I realized I definitely made the right choice not going into the medical profession. I think I barely stayed conscious. But that was my start, and that was pretty neat. It got me interested in the area of healthcare related data and just data in general. So I ended up getting away from that a little bit. I was in multiple industries, and then when I went into master data management, it kind of brought me back to healthcare data, because for MDM companies, not mobile device management, but master data management, that life sciences companies were always at the forefront of adoption for new technology, which is a little bit different than health plans and health systems, but healthcare provider data was the primary data that we would manage initially, and then those companies branched out into other verticals as well, but the HCP data was always the foundational aspect of those organizations and what we built the platforms on. So when it was time to move on and look for another opportunity, the draw to healthcare was there, and the idea that I'm working on something that's technologically interesting, but at the same time providing value beyond that, and that I can feel good about talking to others, is good, right? I felt better about doing this than, say, going to work for a gambling software company or something like that. I had an opportunity to do that at one point. My parents definitely said no way. So that was an interesting experience. Yeah.
I'll take the last one.
I was with Deloitte, and when you are with Deloitte, you do everything, everywhere, and on the road. And then while doing multiple, I was mainly in the financial sectors and life insurance and so on. So someone saw me, might have saw the word insurance, they put me in some life science project, and I saw some algorithms around average mean price, and if you know life sciences, the contracts, the way they do it is much, on the drug side, there are a lot of regulations, the government regulations, and you have to give the lowest price to the government, Medicaid. So there was some kind of, that time the systems didn't exist. I did that. From that onwards, I got branded as a healthcare person. Then I was looking for a job after Deloitte. Eleanor and everyone gave me opportunity. I worked with BC for a while, and then I went.
These guys are a lot more technical answers. I think I did my career started as a software engineer and worked with a low-level driver. I don't know whether you can understand the low-level 68,000, which is a microcontroller on the Xerox paper driver. That was a Java 1 when I started working in 1996. And working in the different industry, I had a lot of experience about either make the problems to solve or make it efficient or create a products which can make it some of the pain points. But I think in 2018 when I sold my company, my startup company to Zoltan, I realized that I should do something for social impact. And I started thinking about the healthcare industry because my wife is a physician and she always talk about how patient make, like, they treat her like a god because she saved a lot of lives. I said, what I'm doing, I've done so many things in my life. I'm not in healthcare. I need to take a plunge in this and see what happens. And that's how my career started 2018-19. I started working in the healthcare industry and then continued in that direction.
Thank you, thank you. And one last question for you before we move on to audience Q&A. What is your vision for the future of healthcare and AI in healthcare? And what part do you see your team, your company in that future? Let's go first. Sign up question.
So it's hard to predict because I definitely wasn't going to be the one to predict that Gen AI was going to be the big hit a few years ago. But right now, I think we're at a point where there's still a lot of maturity to be had in the current cycle. And we go through these phases, and there will be the next thing that we just don't know about yet. I'm sure that give it another 5 years, and we're probably going to see whatever that next thing is. But currently, what we're working on are adopting AI techniques for existing problem spaces, because there's so much opportunity to make processes more efficient, make them more correct, more reliable, and that we're adopting AI into those areas as much as possible. We started with the simple use cases, summarization, and the wheelhouse of Gen AI. We talked about that. That's a great one. It's low-hanging fruit, easy to adopt. Almost everyone has a chatbot these days. And I think the big evolution that we're going to see is that chatbots won't be the talk of the town. It's going to be, okay, we had a chatbot, it was cute, but it wasn't really the thing everybody wanted. That's not where we got the value. So I think what we're going to see is AI use cases that add more value. And we heard about the value-based decision-making earlier. I am 100% on board with that. At the end of the day, I don't want to do AI to do AI. I want to do AI because it brings some significant value to our clients and better outcomes ultimately to the healthcare industry as a whole, which is why I'm here.
I think for us, the important thing is how AI can help our patients and providers deliver the access. For example, we want patients to be able to get any physicians, take the visits as quickly as possible, get the affordable price, transfer price, which is important, which is a lot of other entities don't do that. As well as try to get more manual work to transfer to the AI and get the interactions between physicians and patients are more critical. And instead of doing trial out or real-time benefit check, all these things are taking a long time for physician to do it. We want to make AI to do it during that visit. So physician can actually spend more time about prescribing a proper drug, which is like a latest drug at an affordable price. We want to make this journey as access either to physicians or to our patients as easy as possible. That will be our goal, to make this AI to work going forward.
I can tell future. I stopped driving for the last 6 months since Tesla put the FSD. Now I have 3 Teslas. I don't drive cars. And that's my dream for what we want to achieve for healthcare. I want to go to a doctor. I want to see the doctor. And someday healthcare will get there and we will play some part in it where everything is automated.
Absolutely. I'll do a quick self-insert here. My vision for the future is we can use AI to bring people together like we did today. So with that, go to the people. Audience Q&A, questions? Any questions? Yeah.
My interest is in testing. I've been doing testing all my life. So right now with AI and Gen AI, it's an extremely big challenge. So I want to tackle to the topic about the governance that you were starting to talk about. So when it comes to security for the LLM-based applications, or chatbots, or anything that goes out to real, like outside of your own company. I heard from someone last week saying that the average time to hack an LLM is 5 minutes. Do you think it's ever going to be able that we can actually expect that people can start using it with, other than just the regular ChatGPT, but with something that is the company's data behind it? Or are there still many steps to go? Maybe you can paint a picture like how much more do we need to do until we get there?
So I think you asked an interesting question, and one that the fundamentals of it actually need to be answered by folks of OpenAI and Google and the ones working on building the LLMs, right? We're more consumers of the LLM and using it. But I think what Sandeep said earlier is really a key aspect of this, which is the LLM that you deploy for a application like this, in healthcare, in most spaces, in fact, should be set behind your firewall. I take it a step further and say it has to be a private LLM. So don't use the ChatGPT. Don't send your prompt there, right?
Still, nobody would want to actually dare to use that to put it to make connection to the outside world.
Yeah, so don't, and make it connected to your application. Use a pre-trained model. There are tons of purpose-built models out there as well. And tonight we also use Vertex AI, and it's great because you can deploy your own models into it, and you're running that in a private manner. So not only is the data that you're putting into it protected because no one else can get access to that, but it's also protected by the entire security that you have around the Google platform. AWS has similar things, so does Azure. So wherever you're using, whatever cloud you're using, you can protect your LLM that way. And so right now, because you can't trust that the LLM isn't going to give up information that you don't want it to, and now this is being addressed by companies as well, because there are switches that you can flag to say, don't use my data for training, don't use my prompt information for training. But it's we don't trust what folks tell us, we want to see it for ourselves. It really is putting your own protections in place. It's our responsibility to protect the data that we have. The other thing I think that's important here is there's an education issue, because folks need to understand what's real and what's kind of conjecture out there. And the way we do that is folks like us having these conversations and really understanding what are the risks versus what are just things that we're concerned about because we don't understand it fully.
Yeah, having said correctly that we have to run our own LLM model, private data center or GCP or AWS or whatever. I think the other challenges are when you training these models, make sure you use your own data, don't use external data. That's important, otherwise this will get diluted. And also I was talking about the encryption and the tokenization is really critical. So when the results are coming out, you can understand your own data, nobody else can understand data. So if you put all these things behind the firewalls and everything is done, I think it's highly unlikely that people can go inside and hack your system. But if you train your models and public models like a ChatGPT 4 or Gemini, definitely your data will nobody has that control on. Though Google has their own things, but it can get accidentally leaked. It's possible.
Any other questions? We'll take one more.
And just to add. The gentleman here from GoodRx.
Yep.
You want to comment on what's going on with CDNs?
Okay.
How is it a bad thing?
Just put him on the spot.
Are you recording it? I don't know what to be politically.
Well, maybe just how it would impact your
I think the
business.
premium is, I don't know how many people know about pharmacy benefit manager. There are 17 pharmacy benefit managers. They generally work with the retail pharmacy and the manufacturers or the wholesalers to reduce the price when you get it in front of the pharmacy. And I heard that Caremark, the United Optum and Express Script. Their CEOs were squeezed in Congress recently, and I think the people is trying to play as nice as possible, but the coin has both sides because manufacturers increase the price because they have to do basically research on the new drugs, so it's a chicken and egg problem. And I don't think now with the new government coming yesterday, I am sure that the new administration will be a little bit lenient compared to the previous one, and things will work out much better way than what has happened before. I can't go deeper, but I can take this offline. I don't want to put it on the mic, but definitely things will be okay in my opinion because we still need premium. They have been there for the last 70 years, and it's not going to change overnight. There's no way it's going to happen. So yes, negotiations happen between the retailers and the manufacturers with premium. They negotiate hard. And does it impact our business? Most probably not, because manufacturers work directly with GoodRx because they know the audience what we get. Nobody has that kind of audience in the healthcare.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
It doesn't involve any controversy. Just a business model. You work with PBM and for cash patients, GoodRx provides.
High deductible plans also, not just cash.
Right. I mean, obviously, PBM. But Mark Cuban's Cost Plus, they do not work with PBMs. They still, for cash, especially for cash.
Yeah, I think the market model is different.
What is the difference?
Yeah, market model is different. He's basically manufacturing the generic drugs. They are generated in Texas. There are some offside countries, and then he brings that and then he's trying to sell. It's not coverage for all NDCs, which is like 8,000 combinations of drugs, but only for a handful of 30 to 50 drugs.
He's also have contacts with them, direct contacts with manufacturers.
He's doing that, but it's going to take him a huge amount of time because there are so many new manufacturers and so many drugs are coming to the market to catch up with that. It's not going to take easy. So PBMs are, remember, Caremark is the CVS, Express Script is Cigna. Then if you look at the Optum, is United Health. So I don't need to tell you the story, you can understand behind the scene what can happen.
Actually, let's do one last question because they raised their hand at the same time. Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, I was actually making a point on the LLM question you had. So I think we are in the very early stages of how we are going to harness LLMs. And essentially what's happening already is the agentic platforms that are emerging from these LLMs. And you're actually addressing very specific challenges, industry challenges. For example, the ability to shut down all these disparate SaaS systems by building agentic workflows. So we are not quite there yet, but that shift is happening. That's really what I wanted to say.
Yep.
All right, everybody, one more time, a round of applause for our panel. Thank you, guys, and